I am Emily Harper, 32 years old, an accountant living in the suburbs of Denver, Colorado. My two-story house sits at the end of a quiet road. Its white picket fence cradling a yard strewn with golden leaves in the fall of 2024. The air carries a crisp chill, scented with damp earth and wood smoke from the fireplace, whispering of winter's approach. I have a husband, Jake, 35, a software engineer, and a 5-year-old son, Ethan. A gentle breeze that warms my heart. From the outside, life is a perfect painting. But within me lies a void, a nameless crack widening day by day. I stand at 5 feet 5 inches, slender with soft curves lingering from Ethan's birth. My pale skin is dotted with faint freckles, like tiny stars from my Nebraska childhood summers. My brown hair falls to my waist, shimmering like a caramel river under lamplight, often tied back when I'm busy. My hazel eyes, blending brown and green, once sparkled with curiosity, now dim like a fog-covered lake. I favor oversized sweaters and jeans, the simple comfort of a mother's life. Jake is 5'11" inches, average in build, his short black hair flecked with premature grey, his skin tanned with a hint of Italian heritage. His deep brown eyes sit in a square face, his voice low and steady like a metronome. He wears striped shirts and khakis, ever practical. Ryan, Jake's brother, is 37, a freelance photographer, unmarried. At 6 feet 1 inch, his frame is solid, forged by mountain climbs. His brown hair is tousled, his deep blue eyes like an endless sky. His sun-kissed skin, dusted with the road's traces. He dresses in fitted tees, a worn leather jacket, and ripped jeans. His voice a warm rasp like wind through trees. Ryan visits us on weekends, bringing craft beer and tales of his travels. And I've grown fond of his free spirit. I never thought beyond that, until one October night. Saturday evening, October 19th, 2024, Jake had to fly to Seattle for an urgent work project. He left at 7 p.m., his suitcase rolling across the hardwood floor, his figure fading under the street lights. "I'll be back Monday morning," he said, kissing my forehead. His voice a steady hum. I stood at the door, watching him go. The cold breeze slipping through my beige sweater, scattering golden leaves across the yard. Ethan slept soundly upstairs, leaving me alone in the silent house, the wind murmuring through the foliage outside. I stepped back inside, the fireplace casting dancing shadows on the walls, its orange glow warming the grey sofa. I sat, wrapping my arms around myself, gazing into the flames. Had Jake changed, or had I? The days he held my hand under autumn trees felt like a distant dream. I was a dry leaf, drifting in the wind, unsure where to land. Around 8 p.m., the doorbell rang, snapping me from my thoughts. I rose, opened the door, and a gust of cool air tousled my hair. Ryan stood there, tall in his weathered leather jacket, a paper bag of photos, and an IPA in hand. "I just shot some great stuff at Rocky Mountains. Thought I'd show Jake," he said, his tilted smile dropping strands of brown hair across his forehead. His blue eyes gleamed under the porch light, deep as a starless night. When I told him Jake wasn't home, he shrugged, his broad shoulders tight under a black tee. "Guess I'll hang out with you then. Got any beer?" I laughed, a rare sound like sunlight piercing clouds, and invited him in. "I'll grab some," I said, heading to the kitchen for 2 cold bottles. When I returned, Ryan was on the sofa, jacket off, his fitted shirt hugging a chest carved by adventure. abs defined beneath tanned skin. Scars marked his hands, faint maps of his journeys. His hair fell over a high forehead, brows arched gently, nose straight, lips thin, but curved in a confident grin. He was a wild wind, pulling every gaze toward him. I handed him a beer and sat, keeping a safe distance. "Tell me about your trip," I said, the cold bottle numbing my fingers. He leaned back, his raspy voice rising like a country song. "Last week, I climbed Elbert. Fog was thick, but when it cleared, the world opened up. Mountains stretching forever, sunset red as blood. I stood there, feeling like the last man alive." I listened, swept into his words. He spoke of wind howling through rocks, pine scent in the air, a near slip while chasing the perfect shot. I laughed, my heart lifting like a bird set free. The firelight played across his face, highlighting high cheekbones, a jutting chin, and those gem-like blue eyes. He leaned closer, setting his beer down, his sleeve riding up to reveal toned arms. "And you?" he asked, his gaze locking onto mine. "How have you been?" I hesitated, unused to being seen. "Fine, I guess," I said, my voice softening. "But Jake, he's distant. All he knows is his laptop, like I'm not even there." Ryan stayed quiet, his eyes unwavering. "You don't deserve to feel that alone, Emily," he said, his voice a low tide. Then he placed a hand on my shoulder, rough fingers brushing my sweater, gentle yet stirring my pulse. His breath grazed my cheek, carrying beer and woodsy cologne. I didn't pull away, though I knew this was a dangerous line. We kept talking, the beer dwindling. He shared tales of getting lost in Utah, the freedom of being unknown. I spoke of Ethan, of happier days with Jake long gone. The fire danced, our shadows stretching long. The space between us shrank, not from movement, but from an unseen pull. Ryan leaned nearer, his hand still on my shoulder, his thumb tracing lightly. "You deserve happiness," he whispered, and those words blew through my walls like a gale. My heart pounded, my breath quickened, and I knew I stood at a crossroads with no return. Everything broke loose, like wind tearing through a dry field, too fast for me to grasp reason. I don't recall who began it. Perhaps Ryan, when he leaned in, his warm breath mingling with mine. Or maybe me, when I didn't retreat but tilted closer. That kiss was a flame igniting the cold night, unlike Jake's fleeting touches. It was a rushing river, pulling me under, laced with the faint taste of beer and the woodsy scent of him. A fragrance of deep forests, of freedom. His hand slid into my hair, rough fingers like ancient roots, tugging gently, loosening brown strands to fall over my shoulders like the last leaves of autumn. I felt the strength in his grip, tender yet undeniable, drawing me into the warm wind that was him. I answered, my hand resting on his chest, sensing his heart thrum beneath the black tea. A wild beat, like drums echoing from distant peaks. His chest was firm, taut, under sun-browned skin, and I let my fingers trace its contours. A lost traveler seeking a path. He pulled me into his arms, strong hands like sturdy branches circling my waist, holding tight as if to shield me from the wind's pull. I felt his warmth through my sweater, a smouldering fire spreading within. He eased my sweater over my head, like an artist unveiling a canvas, revealing pale skin flushed pink in the firelight. His blue eyes, deep as a midnight sky, glowed with unspoken longing. "You're a light in the dark, Emily," he whispered, his voice husky like wind through trees, and I looked down. my heart crashing like waves. I touched him, fingers gliding over his chest, feeling each breath beneath his skin. I lifted his shirt, and he helped, bearing a form chiseled from mountain stone. Broad chest, abs rippling like lake waves, tanned skin shimmering in the glow. His hair grew wilder, spilling over his forehead like a tree's shadow in the breeze. He leaned down, his breath brushing my neck, leaving trails of warmth like dawn on a meadow. I trembled, hands clinging to his shoulders, feeling the power beneath, a living mountain, steady and untamed. We fell onto the sofa, 2 leaves twirling together in an autumn gust. Clothes scattered across the floor. My jeans a pale river, his a rugged trail, blending in a silent dance. He was with me, his body afire, enveloping me, not heavy, but a blanket against the night's chill. I felt his heat, the woodsy scent mingling with his breath, a symphony of nature sweeping me away. Time halted, leaving only the fire's flicker and our heartbeats. He drew closer, a wave meeting the shore, slow but fierce, an irresistible merging. I sensed him, not with senses, but with my soul, like 2 rivers joining, flowing as one. I shivered, arms around his back, tracing the ridges of muscle like hills that I yearned to climb. The fire's crackle blended with our breaths, a wordless melody ringing through the stillness. The moment came like sunrise piercing fog, a warm tide washing over me, arching me in his embrace like a leaf slipping from its branch. He followed, his breath ragged in my ear, my name a prayer on his lips. Emily, rough and laden with feeling. We melded, wind and leaf, fire and wood, in a fleeting yet eternal instant. We lay there on the sofa, breaths slowing, the fire painting orange streaks across his skin. His hair, damp with sweat, clung to his forehead, his blue eyes soft like a lake after rain. He looked at me, regret mingling with something deeper. Then he rose, dressing slowly, each motion pulling him away. I shouldn't have let this happen. Emily, he whispered, his voice a mournful wind through a dark forest. I stayed there watching him, silent. My body still glowed, my heart tangled like a field after a storm. He wasn't the only one who crossed the line. I'd let myself drift with that wind, if only for a moment. Monday morning, October 21st, 2024, Jake returned. I heard his suitcase roll across the floor at 7 a.m. Saw him step in, black hair mussed from the flight, brown eyes tired, but unaware. "Trip go okay?" he asked, his voice a steady tick. I nodded, forcing a smile, clutching a cold coffee mug. He kissed my cheek, a faint brush, then headed upstairs to change. I stood there, staring at the sofa where Ryan and I had crossed a boundary, guilt chilling me like a winter gust. Ryan didn't reach out, and I didn't dare message him. Yet he lingered in my mind, blue eyes like a vast sky, brown hair wild as fallen leaves, his warmth a fire from that night. I hated myself for drifting, but a part of me still heard the wind sing his song. The days after were a haze of quiet panic. I worked, cared for Ethan, cooked for Jake, but my thoughts wandered. Each time I met Jake's gaze, I looked away, afraid he'd see the fracture in my hazel eyes. I flinched at every phone chime, expecting Ryan, but he was silent, a mountain fading into mist. Jake remained unchanged, dry, buried in his laptop. I watched him at the table, screen light bathing his square face, stubble uncut. He didn't ask about me, and I didn't want him to, but the secret grew, a wind carrying dust down a long road. On October 28th, I noticed I was late. My heart raced, and I pulled on a wide sweater and jeans, telling Jake I needed to run errands. He nodded, eyes fixed on his screen. I drove to the pharmacy, bought a test, my hands shaking as I paid the cashier. Back home, I locked myself in the bathroom, staring at the stick, praying for one line. But 2 red lines appeared, stark as that night's fire. I faced the mirror, pale skin ashen, hazel eyes wild, brown hair a mess, and knew it was Ryan's. Jake and I hadn't been close in over a month. He was always busy, always tired. It was Ryan that night, on the sofa. This secret was a wind I couldn't hold, a sad song I couldn't sing. I hid the test, but it echoed in me with every passing day. I wondered what to do. Tell Jake, tell Ryan, or stay silent like a winter field. But I knew my life had shifted, like a wind sweeping away the last leaf. March 5th, 2025. And my secret still rests within me. My belly hasn't swelled yet, but I feel the changes. Jeans tighter, sweater's my shield. Time slips by, the pressure mounting like a storm's first gusts. Jake remains oblivious, eating cereal each morning, black hair neat, brown eyes unquestioning. "You okay?" he asked once. But when I said yes, he let it drop. He's still distant, a stranger beside me each night. "Ryan's gone to California," Jake says, working for a magazine. I picture him under golden sun, brown hair tossed by sea breezes, blue eyes gazing afar. Does he think of me, of my hazel eyes, my brown hair, that night's wind? I don't know, and he's quiet as a distant peak. Each night I lie next to Jake, hand on my stomach, feeling a new rhythm. I wonder if it'll have Ryan's blue eyes or Jake's brown, fear chilling me like a draft. I don't know what I'll do when the secret surfaces, when Jake questions, when it all shatters. I don't know if I'll keep it hidden forever, or let the truth blow through like a gale, taking my family, Ethan, and the peaceful days I've lost. But I know that night with Ryan changed me, awakening a wind in my heart I can't silence. My story pauses here, but the wind keeps blowing, a mournful tune suspended in an autumn sky. I stand at the edge, clutching my secret like a leaf about to fall, unsure if it'll drift away or sink into cold earth. Jake, Ryan, Ethan. 3 mountains in my life, each telling a different tale. But I can't walk on alone. Can't finish this song without echoes from others. You've traveled with me through dry fields, through that night's fire, through months I hid in loose sweaters. You see me, not the perfect mother, not the faultless wife, but a leaf lost in the wind. I wonder if you were me. What would you do? Would you let the wind carry the truth? Let it break like glass in sunlight? Or hold it close? Let it sleep like a frozen lake? Tell me, in the words below, in the wind you send back, have you faced a crossroads, where heart and mind tugged you apart? How did you choose, and what mark did that wind leave on you? I don't seek right answers, just a spark from you, a story, a thought, to know I'm not alone in this field. Leave a note, like a leaf falling from your branch. Share with me, with others, so we can sing this song of wind, fire, and secrets kept too long. And if this tale feels like a wind worth spreading, carry it to other fields. Friends, family, anyone willing to listen. For in every falling leaf, a story waits to be told.